Welcome to You Can Call Me Goddess because you're so much more than a queen. My name is Manuk Vink. I am a trained intuitive energy healer specialized in transforming your body and your life. In this podcast, we are going to be diving into everything to unlock the goddess that you are within you. Think of it as the ultimate glow up from the inside out. It's time to unlock your power. It's time to unlock your magic. So sit back and enjoy the show. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another You Can Call Me Goddess podcast. And in this episode, I want to start talking about something that when you're on your journey to stepping into your power and becoming who you truly are and choosing you instead of others, so choosing yourself above others and actually going for what you dream and what you desire, it is not always the easiest road to walk because you're gonna see a lot of obstacles along the way. And if you haven't listened to the podcast about obstacles, that is actually a really good thing. But that doesn't make it any easier sometimes. And I thought it would be important that we discuss this, especially when it comes to if you are on your spiritual journey. And I want to combine these two things because this is one of those situations where, often when you start following your intuition, you start following your gut, you start stepping into the role that was meant for you, and you start doing the thing that you were always meant to be doing, you are going to get some pushback, specifically from the people around you and the people that you love. And if you are having this already, I want you to know that is okay. It is a sign that you're on the right track. And hopefully we can get into some tools or some concepts that will help you realize and get you to shift out of this, but also help you realize why it's happening. So basically, when I first started, how do I even explain this? Let's go back to my bodybuilding competition. No, I can go further back. I've always been the type to want to follow my dreams. And that isn't always easy. So I go with what I want to do. And that comes with a lot of pushback from family members and then later on friends and things like that. So basically when I first finished high school, I wanted to study. And I remember I wanted to study psychology because I wanted to help people. So I did that. So already on that journey, I encountered some things. I realized I didn't want to study in the Netherlands where I'm from. So I wanted to study somewhere else. So eventually I ended up studying in the UK. Wow, that was a journey. I can tell you that much. Studying in the UK, I literally was finding myself in so many ways. I was so lost. I was disconnected from myself. I literally went through all the obstacles you can imagine. And looking back now, I would never change that whole journey, but it was definitely a massive part of my growth and realization. And everything changed after university. But why I'm bringing you here is because after I finished my bachelor's degree, I realized this wasn't for me. I didn't want to be at university studying. I realized it was not what I thought it would be. It was not bringing me where I wanted to be. Although, of course, finalizing my bachelor's degree and getting that far at university and, having that knowledge has helped me in so many ways. But I realized I didn't want to do a master's. I could have easily done a master's, but at that point in my life, I already was like, no, I'm fatigued by this system. I don't want to do this. I feel like there is something else out there for me. And I'm sure some of you listening to me right now have had that same experience of like, okay, this is great, but it's not really what I imagined it to be. And I feel like there is something bigger, something better out there for me. That is often a calling that you need to shift lanes and change your direction. And that isn't always easy. And believe me, I had that experience because my family, specifically my father, he had which is funny because he ended up becoming quite successful without doing university and a master's and all of this stuff. But it's so funny. It's the societal programming, right? Like you're meant to be following a specific route and a specific path to get where you want to be. But that's not true. We've just been programmed to believe that that's how it's meant to be. So I had this like big, like, how do you say, like knot in my stomach, because I was like, I don't want to do my master's. I just do not want to do it. I do not want to continue studying. I want to be hands-on. I want to get started with my work, with my business, with wherever I was headed. So that was the first time I literally was like, okay, how am I going to do this? And it takes a lot of power and confidence to be like, to step out of that programming and be like, no, this is not for me. So that's my doggy confirming. That was like my first, maybe I've done it before then probably, but that was one of my first memories of like deciding that I wanted a different path and choosing my dreams over what society, what my family, what people around me thought I should do. So that was pretty scary because I was like, okay, well, hey dad, I don't want to do a master's. And I kind of like convinced him that, I can always do one if I feel like doing one afterwards. Okay, that was the one pill to swallow and go through. And I did it. And I ended up in the corporate world and I started working a corporate job. I hated it. I hated every bit of it. I was working as a recruiter. I wanted to help people. I told myself this was a way of helping people. Obviously, I was getting people jobs and getting companies business. More employees, but it felt sleazy. It felt like I just did not enjoy any part of it. And then I remember cycling home, cycling to work and thinking to myself, is this my life now for the rest of my life? And I was like, I don't want this to be my life. This is depressing. So me personally, if you love the corporate world, that's you. But for me, I was so deeply unhappy. So then what did Manouk decide to do? I had always been into fitness and nutrition and I wanted to help people. So I went down that path and I met a colleague who's a good friend of mine and her boyfriend was a bodybuilder. So then the idea was born to get me for his like thesis type thing. He had to bring someone to the top to get me ready for a a bikini fitness competition. So I did that. And here comes the next part. I basically decided to go through with that. I was still working my regular 9 to 5 or later job. And I was prepping for this competition. So in my free time, I was training and prepping my food, doing all this work, got insane results. That's a story that you can listen to. I think it's in my first ever podcast where I dive into my entire story. And basically there, I should probably do an extra podcast on that whole story again. But basically that was a crazy experience and it got me to where I wanted to be as well. Obviously learned a lot along the way about my body, about reflections in the body and nutrition, but that's not why we're here today in this podcast. What happened is I was doing this. I was like, it was so intense with my 40-hour or more work and all of that and prepping for this competition. I realized I was unhappy. So then I had to make the decision. First of all, now my dad was going to see me in a glitter bikini on stage, ripped. He did not expect that. Didn't know how to deal with that. Then, and friends around me did not know how to deal with the path that I was taking, that I was choosing such an intense form of fitness and going for something with such a big goal in mind. And they were giving me pushback along the way. And then the other part of it was I wanted to quit my regular job and find something with less hours and lower pay. I didn't necessarily want the lower pay, but so that I could invest more time in the fitness nutrition aspect of what I wanted to do, because that was the route that I wanted to take, I thought, so I thought. We're still using that still in my coaching, but it's just changed so much since then. But anyways, that's what I wanted to do back then. And what happened was people started giving me pushback. So friends and family and, and people around you start questioning you the moment you decide to do something different. the moment you decide that you're going in a different direction. And I've experienced this multiple times. So in this scenario, now I was quitting my job that was, what society wanted me to do, what my dad felt like I should be doing. Not only that, I was prepping for a bodybuilding competition with being totally ripped in a glitter bikini on stage. This was not what my dad had in mind for his daughter. And he could not comprehend or understand. So obviously I was getting a lot of pushback from that side. Then stepping into the fitness aspect, I was getting a lot of pushback from friends, family, like, isn't this too extreme? Are you sure you know what you're doing? Are you okay? I could feel people watching and observing and, having an opinion about the decisions that I was making. And this was from all angles, the universe also testing me that I would still choose what I wanted and push through and do what I felt like was the right path for me. And that isn't easy. But when you are rooted and you know that this is what you want to do, eventually, years down the line, people will see that that was the right decision for you. It won't be instant. It will be for the longest time that you're going to get pushback, unless, which we'll get into a little bit later, you're absolutely rooted to the decision that you're making. Otherwise, they are going to start poking holes in the things that you are also concerned about. And that is the whole aspect of the reflections component. They will start reflecting back to you the concerns that you have, the worries that you have, because you're not secure in those decisions yet. So they're going to test your security in those decisions. But why I want to bring this up is because I'm going to take it down another road in just a second. But why I want to bring this up is that when you decide to choose for yourself and do an unconventional thing or take an unconventional path, or that society deems unconventional or not what you're meant to be doing, not going to a 9-to-5 job and not having kids at a specific age and not getting married at a specific age and not, doing what society deems normal, you are going to get pushback 1000%. Why? Because first of all, it's going to get people thinking about their own lives, and they are going to feel insecure about why they didn't decide to take that step. So they're going to start reflecting those emotions back at you. The same time, what I was just saying to you, they are going to reflect back at you the feeling that you are still insecure about, to make sure that you still decide that you're taking this path. This is an ultimate test that you stand by the decisions that you make. So I always say, once you're getting called crazy, that means you're on the right path, because when people can't identify with you, or they probably can identify with you, but they are just reflecting back at you that they are unhappy or sad that they didn't make that decision for themselves, or they were too scared to step into that path, right? Because it is freaking scary. And part of the reason that it is scary is because you might lose some people along the way, because they will not always see or understand the bigger picture of where you're headed. They might not see why you're doing certain things. And when you grow and step into your power and become who you're meant to be, some people just don't come along the way because they don't grow with you. And that is okay. That is okay, because when you start following your path, the path that is meant for you, you are going to experience so many more amazing things and people that are going to guide you and help you grow. And that doesn't mean that it's sad sometimes to lose the people along the way, but it's okay. It's exactly what each and every one of us needs in that moment. So I want to give you that. And then I want to take it to another route, because I've been through this in multiple scenarios now looking back. Because after the bodybuilding competition, I struggled. And if you know a little bit about my story, I struggled because I was fighting against my body. And so I wanted to compete again in a bodybuilding competition because my self-image was low, right? I valued myself based on how my body looked and the achievements that I made with my body. And that would decide how confident I was or not. So in that journey, the second time round, I wanted to compete again because I thought I had gained too much weight and I was insecure about my body. And I was like, no, I don't like this, even though I did everything by the book. So my body was reflecting me in that moment. I was like losing I was gaining too much weight in my eyes, right? Like looking back now, I looked fantastic, but 2020 is hindsight, right? What is that saying? 2020 vision in hindsight, right? That's the saying. Wow. Okay. But anyway, so I saw that, and I experienced that. And so I went on this journey, and I actually came in contact with one of my first, I would say, like spiritual teachers. And this is where I want to go, because why this was such a eye-opening experience for me. I'd always been into energy and believing there was something bigger out there. I didn't grow up religious at all, actually. I never believed in, I would say, God at the time, but I believed that there was something bigger, which now I see is source, is God. But I believed in something bigger. I believed in that there was something more, and I just couldn't put my finger on it. And I believed in energies and your aura and your energetic field and your energetic body. So for the first time, I came in contact with someone who was definitely a domino effect to me shifting my entire life, my self-confidence, feeling more empowered in who I am. And I spoke about her type of coaching, I think, in one of the podcasts as well, that made me realize why I want to help others feel this way as well. Because the most amazing way I feel you can help others is by empowering and not going back to the past. And that is something that she did for the first time. But why I'm going here is because she was known to do reads on people. So intuitive reads, body reads, like in a different manner than I do now, because doesn't matter. We can go down that road another day. But she was like the first person I was coached by who would read your energy. And this was known. So there were a bunch of people in my circle I actually got to know a bunch of people at my work that were also going to her and to her courses and her master classes live in person. And I had a friend, this was the friend at the time that helped me with my bodybuilding competition. And this is what happens, because when you go down the spiritual path, you're going to have people that are not going to resonate with that because they don't see it. They can't comprehend the understandings quite well. And then we have something called, I think, the spiritual matrix, right? This belief system or this idea about spiritual people and spirituality. And I had that belief too. The same thing when back in the day, if you went to a psychologist, you wanted to make sure that people didn't think you were crazy. The same thing goes for spirituality. People immediately think that you are like woo-woo, or you are like a hippie, or you're like this. And people start immediately kind of thinking, oh no, she's one of those. I'm sure you've heard that as well, like one of those astrology girls. You know, I love astrology, by the way. So I was happily an astrology girl. But what I'm trying to say here is that once you go down that road, you're gonna get people that are going to be like, oh my God, what is she doing? What is she literally like, is she going crazy? Like, what is she talking about? You're gonna get that pushback. However, so I lost friends along the way. And well, at that moment in time, people couldn't identify with the decisions that I was making. And that was part of my journey, part of my growth. But I knew that I had to follow that path. And that was the way that I was going to grow. And even though I didn't know back then what exactly and why exactly, I just always went with that intuitive hit of like, I need to do this. And this is like enlightening me in so many ways. And it is opening up so many avenues for me. So, and it's like making me feel more confident. I'm working through stuff and I'm just seeing the benefit. And the benefit is outweighing what is happening here. And if people can't come along for the ride, then that's okay. And no harm done. It's just, we'll see if we can see each other later on this journey, which with some you do and some you don't. So what I loved about her as well is like with the spiritual matrix and with this, like this, how do you say this like stereotype about spiritual people is this hippie green juice. And she would always say it. She's like, people always think, and I love that about her because she was like, people always think you have to do yoga, drink green juices, be a hippie to be spiritual. But here she was having Louis Vuitton bags, designer clothes, looking like, you know, like fancy and loving the luxuries of life. Same thing with that financial part when it comes to spirituality. It's like there is an energetic exchange, like money is energetic. It's very spiritual when used correctly. And there is like that's a whole nother topic for another day, but it is an energetic exchange when someone gives you money for something and you give them a service. It's an energetic exchange that keeps you guys in balance. Not only that, when you pay for something, at least when I do, I'm way more invested than when I don't pay for something. When I get something for free, I've had that multiple times where I joined free memberships and I just don't look through the content because that exchange isn't there. But the moment I pay for something, it's like a foot in the door. And I've experienced this with personal training clients back in the day as well that would say like, now I've paid, so I'll show up type of thing. So that's another like misconception with the spiritual world. Like you have to live off of nothing. You have to be disconnected with like, it's all about like losing the ego, but the ego is extremely valuable. And I'm sure I'm going to do a podcast on that as well. Actually, I know I'm going to do a webinar on that this week, but basically what I want to say with that is like, there is this stereotype with spirituality and the spiritual matrix where there are also very out of balance ideas about spirituality that are just not true. If you're into energetics, spirituality, you believe in source and higher powers and energetic work, you don't need to be a hippie that doesn't shave and doesn't earn money and only sits and meditates 24 hours a day. Not at all. That actually has nothing to do with you being more spiritual at all. So having that realization opened up so many things for me because I realized, oh, you don't have to put a label on it like that. If that's what you want to do and that's your path, okay, cool. But that doesn't mean that that's what spirituality needs to be for everybody. And I felt like it was so important to bring this up because now down the road, also coaching people on spiritual things, spiritual knowledge, intuition, heavier energies, darker energies, getting into this line of work and experiencing the most amazing teachers in this world and doing this now myself, I have let go of that belief system and that stereotype, and other people will not have always experienced that yet. So they immediately put you in that box of, oh, she's one of those. And once you realize that spirituality doesn't need to be like that, it becomes, for me, it became so much more something that I could identify with, something that was like, oh my God, yes, but that is me. I don't want to be a hippie. I don't want to not shave. I don't want to I don't even know, like do yoga every day and drink a green juice and meditate 40 hours a week. I don't want to do silent retreats. No, that doesn't click with me. That's not who I am. And now realizing that is not how it has to be. There is specific like types of coaches and types of spiritual coaching for each and every person that will identify with you, and you can make it your own. Spirituality is just understanding the spiritual laws, having a connection with source and energy work. And That is what that is, having a greater understanding of the universe and connecting with your intuition, connecting with your body, and whatever form, shape, whatever you want to give it, and however you identify with it most is the way that it will work for you. So if you're like me and you like designer bags and fancy brands and you like to put on makeup and, sometimes be a valley girl and be bougie, but you also like spirituality, then and being outdoors and, having a combination with all of these things and doing energy work and doing meditations when you feel like you want to do a meditation, then that's what it is for you. And actually seeing that money is an energetic exchange. It is very spiritual once done correctly. It is so funny when everything starts to align and you start seeing how it connects and clicks for you, which brings me back to the point of what happens when you grow in your path, in your soul path, and you start making certain decisions. Like I said, some people aren't going to be able to come along for the ride because you might just be at a different level of spiritual understanding, physical understanding, mentally you're developing at a different rate, and that's okay. You're going to find people that match you better along the way. And that friend of yours is going to find people that match her better along the way. And you guys may have just outlived each other's contracts, basically. And that's perfectly normal because it is part of your journey. It is part of your path. And sometimes people come back on that path because they catch up and they understand where you're at and why you were doing what you were doing in the past. In the past, which has happened with a friend that I explained to you in the beginning. Me and her are great friends right now. But sometimes people have a moment where they cannot identify with you anymore and your paths separate. And sometimes they separate for good and sometimes they don't. And I think we often get so worried growing into our path and making decisions that we know are right in our soul and know are going to bring us where we want to be, that we know are aligned with our soul path, soul pull, our destiny, but we decide to keep ourselves small and not make those decisions because we're afraid of stepping into our power and losing people along the way. But when you can see that first of all doesn't need to happen. Second of all, sometimes it is part of the journey and that's okay. And it's going to be so worth it in the end. And that is nothing negative about the people that you will lose at all along the way. They will just find a new path. However, when it comes to family and people that are extremely close to you, they're sometimes, of course, you're still going to be in touch with those people and they are going to give you pushback. And the reason they give you pushback a lot of the time is, like I said earlier in the podcast, is because you're not rooted to what you're doing and why you're doing it. So when it came to the decisions that I was making and people giving me pushback, they were literally poking the areas and the places where I was uncertain about what I was doing. And they were pulling those threads. So they're going to prod and poke at the things that you're uncertain about. And the moment you become more rooted in that this is the right decision for you, they stop. I promise you, they stop. When they see you grow, they see you step into your power, they see you becoming who you're meant to be, and you're happy and successful and getting everything that you've always desired, and they see the work, they stop. A great example for me is, for example, alcohol. My family enjoys a drink. And I've always enjoyed a drink. And when I started my bodybuilding competition phase, I couldn't drink because of the bodybuilding, because of my diet back then. So I stopped drinking. And I remember every time we were at a cafe, people would order a glass of wine and then they'd get to me, because normally I would have, and I would say no. And I would feel those eyes looking at me like, oh my God, there she goes again. She's still not drinking. And it was this thing. It was this real pressure, peer pressure type thing. Like people were judging me for not having a drink, which to me now sounds absolutely crazy. But it took a long time because I wasn't fully rooted in that. I knew that people were judging me. I did feel like, oh, maybe I should have a drink. Maybe I am being too extreme. Or I had somewhere a belief that, there was still a belief that I wasn't fully rooted to, that wasn't part of my identity yet. I don't know how to explain it. Like my core self. It didn't click that this was just a core self decision, but that it was something that I was doing to achieve a certain goal. And then as years went on, for the longest time, people couldn't fully accept that I wasn't drinking until I think I really fully rooted to it. And I was like, yeah, I don't drink. I have a drink once in a while when I feel like having a drink, not when other people want me to, because I didn't feel like I was less fun or it was less like fun to hang out with people if I didn't have a drink. But the moment I was more rooted, people just started accepting it. The same thing with my career and business decisions. Oh my God. I know because I've taken risky decisions. I've made risky decisions in my life, but I just always followed my intuition and gut when making those decisions. And in the beginning, people are not on board. They are not on board because they are seeing where you have doubt, and they're also too scared to make those decisions for themselves. So they start reflecting that back at you. They cannot click with that. And I've lost friends because of that, because they can't connect with the decisions and the thought processes that you're making anymore. And that's okay. That is absolutely okay. Everybody has their own journey. And sometimes you need to allow people to take their own journey, especially when you're going into this. What I've experienced a lot of the time, and it took me a while to realize that, is when you try to push ideas and concepts on people, they do not want to know about it. When they see you experience the things and being happy and see the growth that you're making from the decisions that you've made, and you become more rooted to it as a result of that, they stop questioning you and they accept and are happy for the things that you are doing. And that is going to take time. And sometimes I still have with different decisions, like my views on certain things, those points still get prodded 100,000%, because I realize I still need to work on some shifts there. And because I want people to see what I see a lot of the time. And sometimes they're not ready, and that's also okay. So I think I want to bring the message in this podcast mainly that when you decide to walk the path that you feel is right for you, whatever decisions you make, and you do them from a core belief that you know that this is the path for you, expect that you're going to get pushback. And when you get pushback, it often means you're on the right path. Expect that you're going to lose people along the way, but don't let that hold you back from making the decisions that you want to make, because maybe they'll come back and maybe they're not the right people for this path and they need to go on their own journey, and that's what's meant to happen. I also want you to, another thing that I really wanted to send in this message, when it comes to spirituality, a lot of people have difficulty grasping it, and they have an opinion about it, like with everything else. What really helped me is realizing that it doesn't need to be exactly the same for absolutely everyone. And you're allowed to want a luxurious life and have designer bags and designer clothes and have materialistic stuff and still be spiritual. Like, that is absolutely fine. You don't need to turn into a hippie. And that allowed me to really root to that. And if you want to turn into a hippie, by all means, go for it. But I wanted to send this message, and I wanted you to realize that pushback is a sign that you're on the right path. You're probably going to get it when you decide to make a decision that comes from your core self and from a desire that you know there's something bigger out there for you. And the most successful people out there have been called crazy for their ideas, because they're unconventional ideas. They're ideas that people we've been programmed, let me put it that way, to believe won't work. We need to stay in our lane. That's kind of what we've been taught. We need to just be good little worker bees and do what everybody else is doing. But that's not how we're built. We're all built to do something in this realm, on this planet, specifically for our build. So we have a specific build for the path that we are meant to walk. And the moment you are going to walk that path, I guarantee you, you are going to get pushback. You are going to lose people along the way, but it's going to be so freaking worth it because you're living your destiny and you're going to see the results and you're going to gain so many beautiful people and experiences and everything along the way. So if you're afraid of stepping into your power, I understand you. I know where you're coming from. I've made decisions that people do not identify with multiple times in my life, like so many times in my life. I've been through losing the people pushing back, people not believing in me, people questioning my decisions. And every single day I am grateful that I have, because it brought me to where I am today. And I know I'm still going to get that pushback as I go, and it will lessen the more I step into what I am meant to be doing. And it is going to be so worth it at the end of the day. So if people are calling you crazy, you're on the right path. And don't be afraid of stepping into your true self and doing what you feel like is the right decision for you. I promise you, it is so worth it, 1000%. And keeping yourself small is not benefiting anybody, because when you step into your power, you can help so many more people. You can show people what it's like to fully embrace and stand in your power. And when people see that you're happy, successful, and doing what you're meant to be doing, it is going to inspire so many people. Not only that, you're going to be able to help so many more people. You're going to probably be so you're going to change people's lives in a way that you wouldn't be able to if you keep yourself small. So it's a benefit for everybody, 1000%. And that is what I wanted to send with this podcast today. Thank you so much for listening. Please let me know what you thought of the podcast, and I hope to see you in the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to You Can Call Me Goddess. I am so happy that you joined us in this show today. If you feel like this podcast gave you any sort of life change or value, then share it with someone you think would also get a lot of value out of it, because maybe it could just be that one thing that changes that person's life. If you enjoyed the show, please give it a nice rating below or in the show, because we would love to expand more on topics that you enjoy and keep this podcast up and running. Anyways, thank you, beautiful, and I hope to see you in the next podcast.